Hello folks, today we're going to be changing this ignition coil in this 99 Jeep XJ with a 4.0. Let's get started. Alright folks, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to disconnect our battery. For a couple reasons. Obviously you're going to be messing around with electrical, and also taking this battery out frees up space over here to get at the ignition coil. So the first thing we're going to want to do, I already started. After I got started, I thought, well, this would be a good time to get a video out there. So if you look here, this is your bracket. It lays over here. You're going to want to take those nuts off. Mine are a 13 millimeter. And then this little bracket over here, this guy was a 10 millimeter on this side and then a 13 millimeter on the stud side. So we got that. We're going to remove this, our negative. Then I'm going to loosen up the positive, and I'm going to get this battery out of the way, and we'll be right back. All right, folks. So we located our ignition coil. It's right here. You got a spark plug wire that comes off your distributor down to the ignition coil. We'll remove that on the coil side. We have a pigtail right here. We're going to be removing that off there. And then right under here is a couple of bolts. They look to me to be probably a 10 mil, somewhere around there. When I get to those, I'll verify what size I used. So we want to disconnect this. We want to disconnect this pigtail. And then we want to loosen up these two bolts right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and then I'll verify again what size socket I use for that. All right, folks, I wanted to show you something real quick while I was taking it off. They are two 10 millimeter bolts, and I kept loosening and loosening, and I got it loose, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me why it wouldn't come out, but I noticed it's attached to a plate, and on the back side of that plate there are two nuts. So you'll have to try to, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of, them two bolts are a little bit difficult to get to, but you'll have to disconnect your alternator grounds as well. So basically you have a harness here that's attached to the one side, and then again your distributor plug wire is attached to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to those two 10 millimeter bolts and get something on the back side and get this off of here, and then we'll be right back. All right, folks, so this is the plate that it's mounted on, and it has two of these, the bolt and the nuts on the back side of this. So I had to kind of be clever about it, and what I did is I took a 10 millimeter wrench, and I had a long needle nose pliers, and I had to snake the wrench down back here and onto the nut while I was able to unscrew the bolts by hand. I had them loosen enough, but it was those nuts on the back side that it's a challenge. So over here, this is the Master Pro number ignition coil that we picked up from O'Reilly's. And so we're going to go ahead and replace this old girl with that. The reason we're replacing this is because it has a slow start. My daughter, one of my daughters had a older 93 Grand Cherokee with the 4.0, and you had to keep cycling the key. And so I went ahead and replaced a fuel pump. That still didn't remedy the problem, so I stuck a different fuel pump in there. That didn't remedy the problem. And then I eventually landed, thank God, on changing the ignition coil, and the Jeep popped right over. So I have not done a fuel pump in this. I'm experiencing the key cycling issue, but I am showing fuel pressure when I take the cap off of the Schrader valve and put a screwdriver to it. I'm still showing fuel pressure. So I figure this was a $20-$30 part. It beats trying to put a fuel pump in, which if this doesn't work, that's what I'm going to do. But I'm hoping and praying that this is it and that this Jeep will fire right over. So let's get the new one installed, and we'll go from there. All right, folks. So basically, to put the new one in, you just reverse the process. And again, I got to be honest, the back nuts on that plate for that ignition coil, they're kind of a bear to get to, so you got to be ingenuitive, and if that's a word. And I put a long needle nose pliers on a 10mm wrench, and I kind of snaked it back there. Then I just used the long needle nose pliers to hold that nut on, and just kind of, but make sure you get your alternator grounds put back on, all your harnesses together, whatever you had to remove to get it out of the way to get to that. I went ahead and started it up. It did start a little better. Probably going to have to do the fuel pump on this one, but I'll do a fuel pressure test and everything with a gauge and make sure it's the fuel pump. But like I said, I took the cap off the Schrader valve, put a screwdriver to it, and But if you have any questions, email us, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, and like always, folks, God bless America, and God bless the Republic. Take care.